Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So, Unlocked and Loaded is out. Lots of the talents have been changed. All the weapons have basically been revamped, which means we got to have some new builds. So, today we are looking at the Ogryn, and we're looking at one of my favourite builds in recent months, which is the Slab Shield. So, this is going to be a tankier build, and it's incredibly good for carrying in high level Auric, and also very, very user friendly because the slab shield gives you a lot of leeway when you're playing. It's very, very, very user friendly. So let's have a look at what we are doing. So with the slab shield, there are a few ways you can fiddle with it. I haven't leveled my slab shield all the way up in the masteries yet, as only came out the other day, and I'm still working my way through it. But for the moment, what we're looking for on the slab shield is going to be 80 in everything. So damage, crowd control, penetration, and cleave damage at 80. Defense, we can use it as a dump stat. I know people are going to say, but it's a shield. Why are you dumping defense? Because we're not using the shield for defense. We're using it because it's an absolute stagger machine and does incredibly good damage. And the attack pattern is amazing. So you want 80 in everything apart from defense. That is going to be your god roll. And as for the perks, you can build it in several different ways. At the moment, I'm using Flak and Maniac, but you can also, if you want to clear hordes, you can go for Flak and Unarmored, or if you want to deal with heavier armor, which I wouldn't suggest doing. You don't really need the damage, but you can go Flak and Carapace. But for the moment, I'm sticking with Flak and Maniac because it's the most prevalent enemy type in the game. And as for the blessings, now this is the interesting part. So as you can see here, the old blessings, this is the way we used to build it, which was Brutal Momentum and Skull Crusher. And what we're going to do is we're going to quickly jump over to the Slab Shield and we'll look at the blessing menu. There is a lovely new talent called Opportunist. And this is 25% rending versus staggered enemies. So rending boils down to basically 1% of rending is 1% damage. And as you're an absolute stagger machine with the shield, you're basically going to have plus 25% rending or damage basically at all times. And you can pair this up with, where's Skull Crusher? There it is. You can pair this up with Skull Crusher, so target receives 4 stacks of plus 10% damage if already staggered. So that's another 40%. So you're running at 60% damage already just with blessings. So it's a very high damage build for this. But of course, you can stay with Brutal Momentum if you want to. Thunderstrike, still not working exactly how we'd want it to. So I would steer clear of Thunderstrike for now. I would highly suggest Opportunist and Skull Crusher, or Brutal Momentum and Skull Crusher. Now, offensive defense is a bit of a weird one. So gain a stack for each stamina spent blocking. Your next melee attack gains 4% strength per stack and consumes 1 stack. Last 3 points. This is good. It's not, you're not getting as much damage out of it as you would be with the other two. But if you're wanting to play a purely defensive build, offensive defense is a cool way to go about it. So with that, I would pair that with either Skull Crusher, or you could pair that with Opportunist. I wouldn't really recommend Last Guard at this time. It needs a lot more testing before we can give it that seal of approval. So there are a few ways you can do this. And to be honest, at this point in time, I would say try them out. It's incredibly easy now to switch between blessings and perks and whatever. So don't feel like you're locked in. All you need to do is find a good base weapon, and then you can do whatever the hell you want to it. Right, so that is the shield. Next up, we are using the Rumbler now. And we're using the Rumbler because of several reasons. So, as I said before, with your dump stat is going to be mobility or ammo, whichever one you prefer. I prefer dump out mobility because I'm an Ogryn, I can't move anyway, so yeah. But if you want to dump out ammo for mobility, absolutely go for it. I know some players find mobility the absolute key stat for them, which is fair enough. That's not my playstyle. I'm an unwavering bulwark that gets tripped over a lot. But if you like mobility, dump out ammo. If you like ammo, dump out mobility. So, perk wise, again, I've not finished the mastery on this weapon, but this is basically how it's going to go. Perks, you want damage to flak armor and damage to unyielding. Now, the reason we're taking flak is because, as I said before, flak is the most prevalent armor type in the game. And we're taking unyielding because the Rumbler now absolutely murks bosses and Ogryns. And you can see that with a adhesive charge. Your grenades stick to Ogryns and monstrosities, both unyielding, doing plus 12% damage versus Ogryns and monstrosities. Now, in the mastery, we can see what that's like at its full rank. Let's see, menu. Which one is it? There it is. So that goes up to 15%. So you're doing 15% extra damage to monstrosities and Ogryns. Pair that up with your unyielding damage perk, you're doing quite a lot. Now, there are some really cool blessings in the Rumbler now. Like Marksman's Reflex, if you're running a Gunlugger build, 30% reload speed for 3 on projectile weak spot hit. If you're running a Gunlugger, that might be useful. It's not useful with this build, though. I'm just pointing out some cool stuff that they've added. And then you've got Blast Zone, 4% explosion radius for every shot fired during a continuous fire, stacks 5 times. So that's 25% explosion radius at... Oh, no, I think that goes with 6% at tier 4. Can't see that at the moment. Oh, there we go. Yeah, 6% explosion radius for every shot fired during continuous fire, stacks 5 times. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. So that is 30% explosion radius. So you could pair Blast Zone with Adhesive Charge. That would work very, very nicely. Or if you want to play off of your ability to take less damage from bleeds, we've got Shrapnel. So plus 4 bleed stacks from close range explosion. This is just going to help keep us topped up in defense because we are still running the defense from bleed stacks. Now, you can pair this up with Blast Zone, but for this one, I'm pairing it with Adhesive Charge to give us a more well-rounded weapon. So we're going to be using Adhesive Charge to help with damage against monstrosities and Ogryns, and then we're taking Shrapnel to give us extra defense while we're playing. These two go really well together, but you can also just put in Blast Zone and Adhesive Charge, or Blast Zone and Shrapnel. And Pierce is quite good, especially attacks gain 10% stagger and ignore hit mass. Basically, that is you smacking them with your gun. It's cool, but for this build, I wouldn't use it. I would stick with these 3. For now, I'm going to advise Adhesive Charge and Shrapnel. Okay, so that is the weapons. Let's have a look at the Curios. So now that they have unlocked all 3 perks on Curios, all you need to do is find yourself the highest blessing that you can get. So for health, it's 21%, and for toughness, it's 17%. And as for your perks, as you can see here, the health one, I've got 21% max health with extra max health, 30% toughness regeneration speed, and damage resistance gunners. Then on the next 2, they are exactly the same. This is plus 17% toughness with another 5% toughness, damage resistant snipers, and damage resistance gunners. And as you can see, they are both exactly the same. This is just going to help us shrug off most range damage. And for the sniper shots, you can block with your shield and eat the hit. But if you're not able to do that, this damage resistance is going to allow you to shrug off 1 or 2 shots before you're crippled. So I am running the 2 toughness and 1 health. I find this works quite nicely for me at the moment. It's completely viable to run all health or 2 health and 1 toughness. It really depends on your playstyle, but this is what I prefer after years of playing the Ogryn. Right, so that is the weapon setup. Let's take a look at the talents. This is quite similar to what I was running before with a few little changes. So we are taking the best defense, Furious, Smash 'em, Heavyweight. Heavyweight is one of the most important keystone abilities in our tree because it gives us 30% damage against Bulwarks, Crushers, Plague, Ogryns, and Reapers, and we also receive 30% less damage from those targets. So if you ever see a build that doesn't take this, be very aware. And then we're going to come down here and grab the toughness. Wish we could have grabbed both, but we didn't really have the points. And we're taking bombs away. So bombs away is the least useful out of the 3 blitz abilities. I would much prefer taking the big friendly rock or the frag bomb, but we're taking bombs away because we want both of these talents. So we've got Slam for impact bonus on melee attacks. This is going to give us a lot more stagger, and it's going to allow us to stagger heavier targets like crushers and bulwarks. And then we're going to take Soften Them Up. Enemies damaged by you take 15% more damage for 5 seconds. Again, this is helping us just get past those breakpoints and really start wrecking in melee. Then we're going to come down here and grab this toughness damage reduction, and then we're going to be taking Loyal Protector. As I said, this is a tankier build and very user-friendly. So we're taking this because this is going to help our team keep it off the little ones. Then we're going to be grabbing Valuable Distraction. Enemies affected by your Loyal Protector take 25% base damage from all sources. Now, this is until the Loyal Protector buff wears off on them. So if they're still glowing red, they're taking 25% base damage. And then we've got Big Lungs to increase the radius so we can get more mobs in on us. Then we're going to come over here onto the left. We're going to grab 5% rending, just a massive damage boost for us. And we're going to grab Batter. Now this is what I was saying, it's going to pair up with the Rumbler, as it is inflicting 4 stacks of bleed on a heavy melee hit. So we've got 4 stacks coming from Batter, and we've got 4 stacks coming from the Rumbler as well. And then down here we're grabbing the heavy melee damage boost. 10% damage isn't anything to be sniffed at. Then back into the middle for some health. Grabbing Hard Knocks, 1% damage to your next heavy melee attack on enemy stagger. Stacks 25 times, lasts 10 seconds. The larger the enemy, the more stacks are earned. So you'll earn more stacks by staggering Maulers, Crushers, Bulwarks, Reapers, and all that than you would, say, just a normal Poxwalker. We're going to be grabbing Stay Close. It's a very useful ability. 25 toughness replenishment for unit allies in coherency. You can grab Bone Breakers or if you really want to, but we're going for more of a defense build with this. So I'm grabbing Stay Close. Then we're going to come back here on the left for some more melee damage. And Delight and Destruction. 8% damage resistance per bleeding enemy in melee range, stacks 6 times. Now, this pairs with Batter. So we're laying down bleed stacks on melee hit. And we're also laying down bleed stacks with the Rumbler. So everything we do should just dish out bleed everywhere. So this is going to help us massively with defense. And then we're going to be grabbing Dominate down here, 10% rending for 10 seconds on elite kill. Now, this ability can be dumped out if you want to, because it's only rending on elite kill. But on the higher difficulties, there are lots of elites. So the uptime on this is very high, but on lower difficulties, you might get less use out of it. So if you need a point somewhere, you could always take out the point in Dominate and say, put it over here or over here in the toughness. We can't quite get to that 25 toughness though, but you can always grab a 15 here or here. But for now, I'm going to leave it in Dominate. So back to the middle, 15%, 15 toughness here. God, I wish it was 15%. And then we're going down into blocking or pushing enemies, taunts them for 8 seconds. Payback time, 20% damage for 5 seconds after being hit by melee attack. You're going to get hit a lot. But you do have a shield, so remember to block them. Then more toughness here, and then we're grabbing one of the new talents, which is No Pushover. Your pushes have 250% stagger, but can only be triggered once every 8 seconds. This is big. This is going to layer Crusher or Bulwark out on their asses. And it's even going to stagger Plague Ogryns and Chaos Spawn. It's going to be a little bit difficult to time it because, you know, in the throes of melee, you're not always going to be able to save a block or push for the exact moment, but it is going to help quite a lot. And 8 seconds is not as long as you'd think it is. And then we're coming down here for another health boost, and then we're going to be grabbing Feel No Pain. So you're blessed with 10 stacks of Feel No Pain. Each stack gains 2.5% toughness replenishment and 2.5% damage reduction. So that works out to 25% of both because it's 10 stacks. Taking damage removes 1 stack. Stacks are restored every 3 seconds. Now, as you get more confident with this build, you won't be losing these as much. So you're going to be riding quite hard on this at all times, which is why I'm not taking strongest. Pushing enemies restores 1 stack of Feel No Pain. But I mean, if you're not as confident with it, you can always dump out the point from Dominate and put it into strongest. If you want to be able to farm back those stacks, then that is definitely a good way of going about it. And then we're coming down here to Pained Outburst. When Feel No Pain reaches 0 stacks, you push enemies back and replenish 20% toughness. Can only occur once every 30 seconds. This ability is actually massively good for clutching. So not only does it help in a horde situation, if you're being absolutely battered, this will give you a few seconds to just sort of reposition yourself, get yourself into a better spot to carry on. Or if you've been grabbed by a Chaos Hound and your teammates aren't able to get to you, this will push it off of you. Sadly, it won't do anything about netters, but Chaos Hounds, this is basically a hard counter to it. And then the last keystone, we are taking Toughest. Feel No Pain grants 2.5% toughness replenishment per stack. So we are getting back a lot of toughness from this. So there you have it. A user-friendly, extremely tanky build. Now, I'm just going to show you some quick move sets with it. You're basically just going to be heavy attacking as much as you can. There you go. That was the massive push. So that's on an 8-second cooldown now. So most of the time, you're not really going to be light attacking at all. So here's a Crusher. And let's push him. Not quite as staggered as the Reaper, but still staggered enough to let you get in there and really knock him about. And there's the Rumbler. It's very useful, especially on these, because it sticks itself to the targets. And it not only does explosive damage, it also does kinetic damage when it actually hits them. Not a huge amount, but it's enough to irritate them. And it's enough to, say, take out a sniper with a headshot if you can manage to get one. It's a very fun weapon to use. Especially if you're absolutely surrounded in a horde, you can always just fire it at your feet to give yourself some room to work in. Then we've got the Blitz ability. Again, not only does it do explosive damage, it also does kinetic damage. It's not wildly powerful, but it will help you clear out a horde if you get stuck. And it's a weaker version of the big friendly rock if you manage to get a headshot with it. And then just to show you what Laura Protector does, if you haven't seen it already. Taunts everything around you. And for some reason, they haven't gone red. Weird. Maybe an oversight, maybe a change. But yeah, most of the time, you will just be heavy attacking with your shield. I don't tend to use light attacks very much at all. Now, there is one last thing I want to add to this. I know it's been quite a long video. But there is one massive pitfall with the Slab shield that I really don't want people to fall into. So the special action on the Slab shield is to be able to do this. So you're now locked in place and you are blocking. Do not get lulled in thinking that this is exactly how you need to play it. There are only very, very few places you're actually going to have to use this. So if your team is being pulled apart by gunners, what you can do is use Law Protector to get them onto you, and then for a second or two, just eat the hits. But doing that is basically the exact same as holding block. Except with that, you actually get to move. You don't want to be locking yourself into one position. It is not helpful. Your entire job is to be in the middle of everything, keeping everything as staggered as possible, laying down bleed stacks so that there's trickle damage coming out everywhere. So doing this is only really useful if you can try and eat a couple of hits from flamers, tox flamers, and heavy gunners. Otherwise, you really don't want to be doing this. Anyway, that is the Ogryn build guide tank style. So, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please do like, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. It really does help us out. And I shall see you for the next one. And there will be many, many more. So until then, take it easy, and I'll see you later.